Do you want to know about Kempsville and Virginia Beach? Well, we're talking about that today, and we're starting right now. Hey, my name is Sam Sansalon, and I'm a real estate agent in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and Virginia Beach specifically today. And we're talking about Kempsville today. And if it's your first time here, welcome. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification next to it. You'll be notified every time I do a video about Hampton Roads, about real estate. And today we're talking about Kempsville, which is a pretty large area in Virginia Beach, but it's made up of different subdivisions. They have a very historical and very centralized place in Virginia Beach. So I want to talk about the entire area. We'll talk about where it is. We'll talk about what kind of real estate is in Kempsville. We'll talk about the history of Kempsville, restaurants, things to do, school districts, all that kind of stuff. And I'll throw a couple cons that I don't personally like about Kempsville and my favorite restaurant in Kempsville too. Where is Kempsville? Well, if you look on a map, it's on the western side of Virginia Beach and kind of on the southwestern edge to be exact, just underneath 264. It's a pretty large area. It kind of goes around where you see Salem on the right side, on the east side there, Salem Road. You can actually follow Kempsville Road north to south down closer to Salemville Turnpike. That's close to the edge of what is the broad range of what could be considered Kempsville, and bordered at the north by 264-ish, and on the west by just beyond 64. So it's that whole corridor. But when you really get into it, Kempsville is kind of made up of the area near Kempsville Road on the east and west sides going north and south. So you'll see places like Fairfield, Arrowhead, Caroline Farms, neighborhoods like that, and I'll go into more of these in detail later on. It's a pretty large area, has a lot of people that live in there, and it's pretty centralized to other parts of Virginia Beach. You're probably about a 20 to 25 minute drive to NOB, Norfolk Navy Base in the northwestern side of Norfolk. You're also about 20-ish minutes to Oceana Naval Air Station on the southeastern side. So it's pretty centrally located between the eastern Virginia Beach edge and downtown Norfolk and North Norfolk, and you're about 40 minutes or so to Hampton and that Newport News Peninsula area. So if you want to be somewhere centrally located, Kempsville is a great option for you. Now, Kempsville history. Well, there's a lot of history about Kempsville. I would say it's one of the most historic places in all of the Hampton Roads area, including Williamsburg. Williamsburg is probably the most historic to me, but Kempsville's not too far behind. It's been a town since the mid-1600s. A guy named George Kemp, K-E-M-P-E, he was English and bought a lot of land in that Kempsville area on the eastern side of the Elizabeth River. He made it a port to import and export tobacco, and that area became what was then called Kemp's Landing. In that area of Kemp's Landing is where the, quote, skirmish of Kempsville happened in 1775 during the American Revolutionary War. This battle was led by the British by Lord Dunmore. There's a street in the Kempsville area called Lord Dunmore. So you'll see some street names that have a lot of historical ties to the Kempsville area. In that skirmish was the first death of a Virginian in the American Revolutionary War, John Ackus. It was really a community in the 1600s, but it became a town in 1783. But since then, it did combine with other parts of Virginia Beach to make the larger Greater Virginia Beach city. It's one of 7 city council districts currently in Virginia Beach. I'll drop several links about the history in Kempsville, and also during road expansion in the heart of Kempsville, one of the homes close by was very historic, and it got actually moved, lifted up, jacked up, and moved. And there's an article about that. I'll drop a link below too. But what's considered the heart or the center of Kempsville is where that historic area is, and the intersection of Prince Sand Road and Witch Duck and Kempsville Road. You'll see it right there. And they've had a lot of road expansion, a new park, and in the midst of that, they've tried to preserve some of the history in that central area. However, a lot of the history has since gone, and so there's one historian, local historian, that's talked about this, mentioning that Williamsburg has a lot of history that you can see, it's tangible, but Kempsville could have just as much, but because it wasn't as well preserved, you really don't see as much of it now currently. Now, Kempsville real estate. Now, Kempsville is one of my favorite places to live. So I grew up near Kempsville, and the neighborhoods in there are some of my favorites. Places like Fairfield, Stratford Chase, Larkspur, Lake Christopher, Lake James. These are great neighborhoods, brick ranches. A lot of these neighborhoods were built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, so you'll find that certain time periods were allowed certain styles, and a lot of ranches were built back then. And then as we get into the 80s and 90s, you see places like Salem Lake start to develop, and you'll see different styles. Vinyl siding became more of a thing, a more two-story, but those 50s, 60s, and 70s homes are my favorite. Caroline Farms is another one. Whitehurst Landing. Woodstock is another great neighborhood that I love. And as you can see, a lot of wide streets, the brick ranches. Now, some don't like the ranches. I personally do. It usually allows for a little bit larger land size. As we get into the 90s and 2000s, the land sizes for the same price often shrunk because they started adding square footage up instead of out. So a lot of those ranch style homes have a little bit larger pieces of property and give you a little bit more of a buffer between you and your neighbors. Not that you don't like your neighbors, but you know, you like to have that extra little 10 feet. And there are also some townhomes in here too. So the prices of real estate in Kempsville can range greatly. And it can start in the mid to upper 100s for townhomes, but for single family, you're starting in the low 200s to mid 200s and go up as high as mid 4s and up to 500,000-ish. The more square footage you need, the different neighborhoods you're interested in, that can really influence the price range you're looking for. But thankfully, most of these areas don't require flood insurance because most of them aren't that close to water. Now, the size of homes, you're talking about 12 to 1,400 square feet entry level in the low $200,000 range. We're going up into the $300,000, $400,000 and up. You're talking closer to $2,500 to $3,000 and more. So you get the wide range of the type of homes and style of homes that you're looking for. Now, what I will say though is a lot of these brick ranches and these 50s and 60s and 70s homes, they were designed with cut up floor plans. What now is very modern is having open floor plans, you know, kitchen opens up to the dining room. That is not as common with these older homes. They're just very squared off and cut homes. So if you buy one of these, you're going to get a great house. You might not get the floor plan you're looking for though right away. So what a lot of people have done is they've knocked walls down to open up the floor plan. So some of the homes you're looking at, if you're buying, might have this cut up floor plan, but just keep in mind when you're looking at these, that it's often possible to open up the walls and make it the way you're looking for. So don't be too shied off because of the floor plans that you see. And I think they're just well built as well. So a great place if you want to settle, have a family. There's great schools nearby. We'll talk about those schools later on in the video. Shopping's nearby. You're close proximity to the interstate. Now let's get into that shopping. There are three primary strip malls or shopping areas that have the most action. Fairfield Shopping Center, Kemps River Shopping Center, and Providence Square Shopping Center. Those have your main grocery stores like the Kroger, Food Lion, there's a Harris Teeter nearby. A lot of restaurants, Skinny Dip, places like that. And also in Kempsville is the first job I ever had, which was a bellman at the Founders Inn on Indian River Road. Well, I had some fond experiences there, and if you're watching here from Founders Inn, give me a shout out down below. Now restaurants, Puchinella, an Italian restaurant, Camino Real, a Mexican one that I go to all the time. Shake and Crab is one I haven't been to, but I have several friends that love it and are telling me to go to. Gen Thai, a great Thai place that's across the street from the Shake and Crab. Another one of my favorites is Tasty Korean Barbecue, all in the same shopping center with Gen Thai and Shake and Crab. And there's one more restaurant I'll tell you about later that's my favorite that's technically right outside of Kempsville on the north side, but if you live in Kempsville, it's worth the extra 5 minutes to drive there if you really want some good Mediterranean food. School districts, well, this is a very high demand school district area for the most part. Kempsville, Tallwood, and Salem are the three primary high school districts in Kempsville. Now Kempsville, Brandon, and Larkspur are the three middle schools, but then there are several elementary schools, and I'll put all the links down for all these schools below in the description. But this is a place where people often want to go to put their kids in the schools. I have a lot of friends that grew up in these schools, and many stayed in the area and put their kids in the same schools too. Now cons, there's one con I want to tell you about by living in Kempsville, which is the traffic. Because Kempsville used to be a kind of a country area, and then it developed and developed and developed. I think it almost feels like the area never really caught up to the growth as fast as it could have. What that means is that the roads in Kempsville, and like for instance if you see Indian River Road, which is now a huge major thoroughfare through Virginia Beach, was a very country road. And so as the population increased in Kempsville, the city continued to add lanes, add roads in the area, and they did the best they could, but they really couldn't keep up with the growth. And so you have a lot of bottlenecks. Indian River Road, Kempsville Road, and Princess Anne Road and Witch Duck Road, which is the north side of Kempsville. Those 4 streets and in the areas in Kempsville back up severely, primarily in the rush hour times. So in between about 4:20 and about 5:25 to 5:30, when you're going down Indian River Road from west to east, you're going to hit traffic, and it's going to take you like 15 minutes to get about half a mile. Every other part of Kempsville is amazing to me, but that part, that trafficy spot, is really annoying. They're doing their best they can to make it easier to commute, but it's something that is just hard because all of the real estate is built up close to the roads. The only way to expand the roads is to sometimes knock down houses, and which is what they did when they widened the north section of Kempsville and Witch Duck Road. They widened the roads, and some of the homes were demolished and bought by the city to increase the lanes of that part of town. Now, another thing I'll drop a link below about is the new traffic pattern between Indian River Road and Kempsville Road. What they're trying to do is they're trying to eliminate the left turns that happen from Indian River Road onto Kempsville in all directions. Anybody who wants to turn left from one of those streets, go through the intersection and make a U-turn and then veer right towards the direction that they were planning to go. I'll drop a video down below so you can see what I'm talking about, but it sounds confusing, and it was to me at first. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. It just seems like a mess right now, and between the July time frame of 2019 to almost the end of 2019, there's going to be a lot more construction in these already congested areas. As people get used to the new traffic pattern, I'm hoping that it does create some quicker and easier access in those intersections. And all these neighborhoods have a lot of people that I grew up with, and a lot of them still live here. So if you do end up moving to Kempsville, you might be living next door to one of my friends. Now, the restaurant I recommend the most you go to, which is right outside Kempsville, kind of cheated a little bit, but it's called Mazari Kebab and More. I'll drop a Yelp link below in the location too. My wife and I go there quite a bit. We get the gyros. They're seasoned perfectly. And in addition to that, I get grape leaves too. So if you like grape leaves, I love their grape leaves. Again, their seasonings are what makes me want to go back there over and over again. And as you can tell, if you've seen my other videos in Norfolk and Virginia Beach, you'll notice that my wife and I are big fans of Mediterranean food. So this is probably one of our favorites, if not our favorite Mediterranean place in all of Hampton Roads.